So you want to press the salmon colored power button. You want to make sure you hear that. Did you hear that audible beep? Okay. You do want to make sure you hear that beep. You want to make sure you hear the beep every time you press one of the buttons. Otherwise, it did not get the message. So when you first start out, you are in auto changeover mode. This will automatically change from heating to cooling without you having to do anything. You essentially set a temperature and leave it, and if it gets too warm, it'll cool it, and if it gets too cold, it'll warm it up. But because you have a multi-head system, both units have to be in the same mode at the same time. Otherwise, they will not work. So disregard that mode completely. Press the mode button once, it goes to air conditioning. First thing you'll notice is air conditioning comes on instantly, and that's because refrigerant in its natural state is a liquid, so it's cold, and it needs to be compressed into a gas to create heat. That's why when we go into heat mode, it'll take about 5 to 8 minutes to warm up. Press the mode button again. Dehumidify, that little droplet means dehumidify. That's a dry mode. That'll actually pull moisture out of the air. Press it again. It goes to heat mode. Again, heat mode will take about 5-8 minutes to warm up. During that time period, you can press the fan or the vane button to adjust what you're doing here, but it won't physically do anything until it comes out of the warm-up period and starts actually producing heat. So, as you can see, the fan is on a 2 fan speed. There's a 3, 4, and then if you press it again, it goes to auto select, meaning the device will pick the fan speed for you based on the temperature you requested, adjacent to what the room is currently.
Do you recommend the auto mode for the fan speed?
Not generally, no. Especially, well, so what happens with the auto fan mode is that it generally comes on a little strong in the beginning, and then it tapers down to a really slow fan speed. And what we find is that it doesn't really drive the heat into other areas of the house. The device doesn't know that you want to get heat down a hallway or anything like that, so it really needs to be adjusted to a fan speed of 2 or a 3 to really help drive that conditioning, whether it be cooling or heating, into other areas of the house. You also have your vanes in the front here. There's a swing mode, press it again, and then there's the auto select mode. The device will pick the position of the vanes, the louvers in the front, based on the mode you're in. And in heat mode, it'll always point straight down, and because hot air rises, so it wants to push that hot air down to the floor and have it rise to fill the room. Or in cooling mode, it'll point straight out because cool air is heavier, so it wants to push that cool air across the top of the room and have it drop to change the temperature.
So the vane is going to adjust itself automatically?
With that little swirl symbol right there, that's what that means, that the machine will auto adjust the louvers based on the mode you're in. Now, that's not a bad selection, but it may not be optimal for your application. And to really drive some of the heat further out into the rest of the room, you may want to adjust it. As you can see, it's about a 35, 45 degree angle. And you can get that, and that'll come out to about where we're standing now, about maybe 15 feet out, 10 feet out.
So that's that third icon down from...
Correct.
And as you change that, it
will adjust, but it won't do anything until we start producing heat. So like I mentioned earlier, you can adjust the fan speed with the remote and the louvers, but nothing's physically going to happen until it starts to produce heat. So it's kind of in a standby mode right now while it's warming up.
Okay.
So one thing we do recommend is that you not turn these off at night, that you just turn them down to a more desired temperature if that's what you would like.
Because so like 65 or...
Sure. If you keep it at, let's say, 68, 69, maybe only take it down, 65, 64. In colder months, in the freezing temperatures, I wouldn't recommend any more than a 3-degree differential from night to day. And that's just to make sure that it can hold that temperature very comfortably for you. One thing to note, it is more energy efficient to cool your house than it ever is to heat your house. Because when you cool your house, you maybe go 15 degrees, right? You take it from a summer, let's say it's 90 degrees outside, you take it down to about 75 or so, let's say 15 degrees, just essentially to take the edge off, right? But when you heat your house, you're potentially going from 30 up to 80, and that is a big jump. And when you let the core temperature of your house get too low, it takes a lot of energy to bring it back up. So it's much more energy efficient to maintain a heat than stop and start. And that's why we don't recommend that you turn them off at night. Just turn it down to a more desired temperature.
But not more than 5 degrees or so?
Yeah, in the winter months, I wouldn't recommend any more than 3 degrees.
3 degrees, okay.
Yeah, we have clients that actually just leave it at a set temperature no matter what time. They do not turn it down at night. They just let it run, and that just keeps the house at a very comfortable
And
temperature.
that doesn't affect their electricity bill a lot?
No.
Okay.
Because these are so energy efficient and the power consumption is so low that it really will not affect it. It will affect it more if you turn it off at night and turn it back on in the morning, because that jump trying to warm up to the temperature you want in the morning is going to use more energy than if you just let it maintain.
And what's the wide vane thing?
The wide vane is your left to right. So you have this icon here. Right now it's pointing straight out, and if you press it once, it goes to center right. Then it goes, press it again, it goes to far right. And then if you press it again, it'll split. It'll go half of the louvers, which are behind these front ones here. There's another set behind that, which is your left to right. And it'll split. You can actually see it goes a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. Press it again, and it'll swing from left to right, back and forth. That's what that icon means right there.
And not all of the indoor units have that wide vane feature,
no,
right?
they do not. Some of them on your smaller one in the kitchen that I'll show you, actually you have to do that manually. There's actual little posts that you can move to adjust that manually, but there's no button on the remote for that feature.
Okay.
Press it again, it goes to far left. Press it again, center left, and again for center. I always tell everybody you kind of have to find the sweet spot to your house and how these really work for you and your application. So I would suggest playing with the remote and adjusting it and trying different settings to see what really works best for you. There's a powerful button. Let's say for the sake of the conversation, power goes out for a few days or a few hours, and once it comes back on, it's really cold in here. You can hit the powerful button, and that will pump in more heat, and the fan will spit at a high rate to really warm up the house very quickly. You press it to turn it back off once it's done. You also have an away mode for air conditioning, a cool. Again, for sake of the conversation, let's say it's a 90-degree summer day, you're cooling it down to 75, you're enjoying the nice air conditioning, you're going to leave for a few hours, you're not going to be here, and you don't want to spend the energy to cool it down to 75 while you're gone. You press the cool, and this allows it to come up 4 degrees while you're gone. That way you don't lose all of the conditioning, but you're not spending that energy cooling it down to that level. You come home, press the cool again, and it brings it back down to your last desired temperature.
Okay.
I'm going to adjust the temperature up so we can get this to start producing some serious heat. You can feel it.
And what about the timer?
I'll be honest with you, the timer is probably one of the worst timers in existence. Whatever time you set it for, as soon as that time elapses, it expires, and you have to reprogram it every single day. However, again, we don't recommend that you turn them off during the winter months, so we recommend that you just turn it down. So a lot of clients don't even use this particular timer.
Okay, it's just not really that useful.
No.
Okay.
You can get wall thermostats that are programmable. You can get apps that are programmable to be able to control it via Wi-Fi.
Okay. I think that covers everything I need to know. Thanks, Anthony.
You're very welcome.